Hey guys, I'm Jeff from UnleashThePhones.com, and today we're going to take a quick look at the Nokia Lumia 520. The Nokia Lumia 520 is a cute little phone. It is the most affordable in Nokia's line of Windows Phone 8 devices. Now this is important for Nokia because unless you count Nokia's Asha lineup as smartphones, you don't really get good, cheap, affordable smartphones nowadays. Sure, you get a couple Android phones now and then, but they're really slow at this price range. And let's face it, they're not very recommendable. Now last month I told you about the Nokia Lumia 620. The Lumia 620 was Nokia's first Windows Phone 8 device that came with an affordable price tag. But now you have the Nokia Lumia 520, which is even more cheaper and basically has the same internals as the 620, except that it skips on a couple features like a single LED flash, and the backlit keys are not lit for some weird reason. Sure, it has its pros and cons, but considering the price, it's actually not too bad a phone, and here's why. Now I know I said the Nokia Lumia 620 was cute, but that word really applies very well to the 520 as well. As you can see, it uses the same soft touch plastic, except that in this case it's matte compared to the glossy finish of the 620. It's about the same size though, but you do have a larger screen, as you can see on the 520 versus the 620. You also don't have that very cool dual shot color technology that they used on that. Both devices do have interchangeable back panels though, so you can take off the back panel and change the color if you want to. Now when I first took the Nokia Lumia 520 out of the box, I was immediately impressed by the build quality. Considering its price, is actually very nice and solid. The red version that we got is also very eye-catching, as you can see, and it really does feel very solid all around. Just like the rest of Nokia's Lumia range, they have focused on bright, vibrant colors to differentiate the 520 versus the rest of what's out there. This is the red color version, but you also get the Lumia 520 in cyan blue, yellow, and the usual black and white colors. Measuring 119 by 64 by 9 millimeters, it's a little larger than the 620, but surprisingly it's actually lighter than the 620. It's about 124 grams versus 127 grams, and it's also a tiny bit slimmer, as you might see. It's still compact enough though that you can actually hold it in your hand and use it like a proper phone without having to stretch to reach all the corners of the screen. Coming to the front of the Nokia Lumia 520, you have a 4-inch IPS LCD capacitive touchscreen at 16 million colors and 480 by 800 pixels for a pixel density of about 233 ppi. The pixel density is actually decent enough so that you can't actually see any jagged edges on text. The 520 doesn't have the same clearback display technology as the 620 though, so you will notice that the black colors are not as deep as they could be. Viewing angles are also okay, but they're not as great as the 620. The display is also really bright, but unfortunately the screen is very reflective, as you can see, and it also catches fingerprints very easily, which is a bit of a problem. This also makes it a little hard to use in outdoor sunlight, unfortunately. The screen also features Nokia's super sensitive touch technology, so you can actually use the Lumia 520 with a pair of gloves. Above the display you have the lone earpiece right there and a proximity sensor hidden in some corner. Below the display you have the usual 3 Windows keys for back, home, and search. The search button, as always, is configured to Bing search, and you can't change that. The other keys work just fine. Unfortunately though, neither of the keys are backlit, so they don't light up even in dark circumstances, which is a bit of a bummer, but you do get used to the keys pretty quickly, so it's not a huge issue, though there are moments where you will hit the corners in between the keys, for example, which will be a little awkward. On the left side you have no ports or keys, keeping everything super minimalistic, while on the right side you have the volume rocker switch, the screen lock and power button, and the dedicated camera key, which you can press and hold from the lock screen to open up the camera app. At the top you have the usual lone 3.5mm audio jack, while at the bottom you have the usual micro USB charging and connectivity port. Coming to the back you have the 5 megapixel camera, but there is no single LED flash, unfortunately. There's the familiar Nokia branding and a tiny little speaker grill. The speaker is actually not that bad, it's actually louder than the 620, though I'm not a big fan of the placement. All in all, the Nokia Lumia 620 does look and feel great for its price range, and if you get one of the nice vibrant loud colors, you're sure to catch some attention. Alright, and coming to the hardware, you have a dual core 1 GHz Snapdragon S4 processor, which actually works pretty quickly, as you can see. There's Adreno 305 graphics, and there's 512 MB of RAM and 8 GB of internal memory, with about 5-ish GB that's available to use. You also have space for a micro SD card slot as well. For its price, it's actually quite a lot of hardware. Since it runs Windows Phone, it is all super quick, as you can see, and there's no lag at all. In fact, compared to the flagship Nokia Lumia 920, it's actually almost exactly the same speed, though you will notice that there is like a microsecond more in the Nokia Lumia 520's case. In terms of connectivity, you have 3G, HSDPA, you have Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth 3.0 and GPS. Unfortunately, no NFC or wireless charging for that matter. And coming to software, as you can see, the Nokia Lumia 520 runs Windows Phone 8. We've talked about Windows Phone 8 many times before, but I'll just try and focus on the important bits. There is 512 MB of RAM, which is limiting because not every app from the App Store will work. For example, Temple Run is a very popular game that released on Windows Phone just a couple of days ago, but unfortunately it doesn't run on the Lumia 520 because of the 512 MB of RAM limitation. In fact, you actually won't even see it in the search results because it just flat out refuses to install on the 520. So far, all the apps that I try and use have been working fine on the 520, but of course there will be a couple more apps coming along that possibly might not work with this phone, even though Microsoft has said that about 95% of all apps should work fine. But Nokia also has their own apps like Nokia Music, Here Maps, Here Drive, and Nokia Smart Shoot and Cinemagraph, among other things, and they all work just fine out of the box. Now, you probably already heard of Windows Phone 8, but I'm just going to give you a quick demo right there. You have these tiles right here that are arranged, and you can change the size of or remove. You can actually basically pin anything to your start screen. What's huge about Windows Phone though is the social networking integration it has for Facebook and Twitter. You can check up on your friends right from their phone book entry. It's also very lightweight in comparison with Android, and as such it performs very well on the 520 with no instances of lag or slowdowns, and that's something that's actually quite rare at this price point. Microsoft doesn't allow any manufacturers to change the UI of Windows Phone, so you actually get the same exact experience on all phones, which is why I'm not going into super detail about what's new in this case. But basically you have all the essentials of what you'd expect from a smartphone. There's Office integration built in, and also Xbox Live. So yes, Windows Phone does have a lot going for it right now. Unfortunately, the elephant in the room is that there aren't that many apps compared to Android and iOS. For example, Instagram isn't officially available for Windows Phone. There's no Google apps for that matter. And even the Microsoft made YouTube app is just a link to the mobile version of YouTube. Of course, Microsoft is working to bring in all the popular apps, so hopefully 1 year from now that won't be a big issue. Coming to music, there is support for Nokia's music service. You get 3 months of Nokia Music with the Lumia 520. It works really well, and you can basically listen to streamed music right out of the box. There's also Xbox Music if you live in a country where it is supported, and of course you can add in your own music and videos as well. And lastly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Windows Phone keyboard, which I think is one of the best software keyboards out there right now. It's really easy to type, as you can see, and it has this very fun sound that kind of makes it a little addictive to type. So yeah, that's pretty fun. Of course, you can also type in landscape mode as well. The keyboard is very comfortable to use in portrait, but in landscape there's a bit too much bezel. All in all, Windows Phone 8 really shines as an operating system for low-end devices. It's really fast and very capable, and you can share images over Bluetooth and drag and drop files from a Windows PC. Of course, the lack of a notification center is a little bit annoying, and there aren't as many apps on Windows Phone as on Android or iOS. Coming to the camera, the Nokia Lumia 520 features a 5-megapixel autofocus camera. There's no single LED flash though, so you can't actually take a lot of images in low light, but image quality is actually pretty good. Considering this is an affordable smartphone, I didn't actually expect much from the camera, but surprisingly the results were actually pretty decent. You get nice pleasing results with nicely saturated colors. There's also a lack of details, and dynamic range isn't too great, but all in all, considering the camera quality is actually not too bad for the price. Of course, we do have camera samples over on the blog that you can check out, but it's also worth noting that Nokia has camera lens apps like Cinemagram and Panorama and Smart Shoot are all built into the Nokia Lumia 520, and they work pretty well as well, except that maybe for Smart Shoot and Cinemagram it does take a little while to create. Coming to video quality, it's basically the same results as in with pictures. You can record at up to 720p resolution, which is pretty cool. Coming to call quality, the Nokia Lumia 520 did a pretty good job at calls. It doesn't have the noise cancelling of the Nokia Lumia 620, but voices do come in clear, and folks on the other end of the call were able to hear us pretty fine. And of course, because this is a Nokia phone, you don't have issues with signal strength either. Coming to battery life, the battery on the Nokia Lumia 520 is actually pretty good considering it has just 1430 mAh battery. I just charged it up before this review, but as you can see, it estimates to have about 16 days worth of battery life, which is a little crazy because it won't actually last 16 days, but it will easily last you over a day's worth of moderate to hard usage. I would still advise charging it up every night though. So to conclude, there actually isn't any Android phone in the same price range as the Lumia 520 that's actually even remotely as fast and fun to use. Of course, like I said before, there are some corners cut to meet the low price. For example, there is no front-facing camera, the keys are not backlit, and there is no single LED flash. But these aren't deal breakers by any means. You still get gorgeous hardware and a great design with vibrant colors, a decent-ish camera if you don't mind the lack of flash, and Windows Phone 8 is generally enjoyable to use. Now, it's not as free of complaints as the Lumia 620 was. I still think the 620 looks a lot better, even though the 520 has a larger screen. But at this price range, the 520 is actually really good value for money. I don't even think there is any Android phone in the same price range that's as recommendable. In fact, the only competitor it has is the HTC 8S, which has kind of the same hardware but costs a lot more. With Windows Phone, you do have the deeply integrated social networking, the exclusive Nokia apps, live tiles, and a fresh user interface, along with the benefits of Windows Phone 8, such as the ability to send files over Bluetooth and drag and drop files from a PC. Ultimately, your choice is going to be whether that is worth it over the vast amount of apps that Android has, but on slower hardware at the same price point. At the end of the day, there's no denying that the Nokia Lumia 520 is incredible value for money. But hey, don't just take my word for it, check out the detailed review over on unleashthephones.com, and as always, if you guys have any questions, let me know right in the comment section below. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because that's the cool thing to do. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, guys.